Hi everyone, I'm Kayleen. This is my third YouTube video. I started this channel to promote my graphic memoir of how I used my health and fitness knowledge to stop my mother with mild dementia from forgetting me, and it worked. So I'm proud to describe and tell you what I did as a health and fitness professional. It will hopefully be coming out this summer, but this channel is a little bit of caregiving, bullet journaling and art, everything that I've always liked to do. So today I wanted to, if you have never read any graphic books, graphic means pictures like comic books, and I honestly had never read a graphic book for maybe 4 years ago, and that's when I started to decide that since there's a lot of dialogue and between my mother and I and backgrounds and other people, I draw other people, but I'm using Adobe Photoshop and InDesign and Illustrator, so I take pictures of my mother and I, and then the backgrounds, and then there's other people, I draw them according to what their character did. So it'll be, if you haven't read any graphic books, they are really fun. They're really fun. And then Mouse, of course, is now in the media, which is an absolute fantastic book. So if you have never read any graphic books, I would highly recommend you go out there and start looking at some. And there are some awesome ones. I always have been an avid reader, and sometimes when you read biographies and everything, I read a lot of biographies and autobiographies, and sometimes the authors will kind of go over a lot of the background, which honestly has bored me. But with graphic books, they cut right to the interesting stuff. They don't go over their background and their grandparents and all that. So I would highly recommend you check out some graphic books, and hopefully you'll subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. It doesn't cost anything. It's free, and you will learn more about caregiving and what I did to trick my mother into for her own health. Hi, my subject of today's video is how I decided to create a spread in my bullet journal called No Regrets. I didn't want to have any regrets in my 90s. And the biggest example I can give you is I did not want to have any regrets about my mother. I actually had to fight a nursing home who illegally held my mother for the insurance money. So I had to go to probate court for 2 months. I won. And in the end, I have no regrets taking care of my mother. I'm glad I did it. It was the right thing to do. I absolutely understand why it might be impossible for a lot of other people, but I can't help but sometimes wonder, if you have a big family, if you all tag team together, it will never be so overwhelming for one person if everybody gets together and helps. But that's just one of my suggestions. But I also spent a lot of time trying to find ways to really challenge my mother physically and mentally by using all of my health and fitness knowledge, and that's kind of what I go over on my channel. But today I also want to talk about my no regrets, and here is the picture of my panel, or my collection, my spread called My No Regrets in My 90s. So the first thing that I did for my no regrets is decide what my priorities are. My priorities are my physical health, even more than my book, even more than making money. I want to have a good quality of life as I get older. What good does living longer if you don't have a good quality of life? So as you can see here, I will have no regrets in my 90s. Number one is hydrate, which was a huge problem for everybody. I preached this to all of my college physical education students. I tricked, bribed, incentivized my mother to drink water. When she drank water, and I mentioned this in my first couple of videos, she was less irritable, her brain worked better, and it's true for everybody. You need to be hydrated with pure water, not Red Bulls, not sodas, not juices, not coffee. You need pure water. So hydrate. For me, I do hydrate. I'm constantly sipping sugar-free iced tea or hot tea all day long. I always keep some kind of water next to me, so I keep on sipping it. I didn't want to, and then of course hydrating helps with wrinkles, so I don't want to have a lot of wrinkles in my 90s. Unfortunately, there is some vanity in there as well, right? And hydration helps that. So I decided to, I created a list. So this is my first part of my list. I'll show you my health habits. Flexibility. I'll go over some of the flexibility, but I also teach yoga and Pilates and almost every physical education class you can think of. Not a lot of sports, but a lot of classes that you see on a health club group exercise schedule. So flexibility, if you do downward dog and a quadriceps stretch every day, that is a total body stretch, because downward dog stretches out your chest, your back, your hamstrings, and your calves. And if you do a quadricep stretch, you'd get the last final muscle. So I always make sure I do that. For the past year and a half, because of COVID, I haven't been teaching my regular classes, so I figured out how to do it all at home, and I teach some Zoom classes as well now. So I'm going to share with you some ways you can still stay fit and flexible even though you might not go to a gym. And there's no excuse not to stay in shape. It doesn't cost a lot of money. There's plenty of things you can do with gravity and at home. Gravity is your best form of resistance, and for a lot of people, that's the only things that you really need. You don't need to have super leg strength and do leg press at 150, 200 pounds. That's not something you really need in your life. I need leg endurance for walking and dancing, and I need upper body strength for everything else. Then I have my few friends. I want to keep up with all my friends. And I'll admit, in my younger days, in my 20s and 30s, if some of my friends didn't make sure that they contacted me, I kind of gave up on them because I thought, well, if they don't want to contact me, I'm not going to contact them. But now in my 50s, I'm realizing that's dumb. It's some people's brain just, it isn't a personal insult to me. Their brain just doesn't remember. So I have created a friendship wheel, which I'll show you in a little bit, just to keep up with people. Social interaction is the most important thing for our mental health. And we saw problems with that for the past couple of years. By the way, I'm doing this video on February 6, 2022, in case anybody sees this in the future. So we have to keep up with the social interactions with people. That's more important, and that's really true as people age. You need social interactions with people to keep your brain going. Having fun, enjoying life, sorry, excuse me about that. Make a difference. I want to make a difference with my books, especially my first graphic memoir. I want a strong heart and strong muscles. Aerobic activity and strength must keep up with. I'll show you guys my push-up calculator, which I did show in the first couple of videos. Vibrant skin, moisturizing, dry brushing. I've been doing some dry brushing, and that influences all your other systems in your body, and it makes you feel good. Just doing some dry brushing. I will be an award-winning author, an author of 4 books, so I'm thinking my positive affirmations, putting that out there in the universe. And then an artist capable of drawing from my brain with no reference, which is a challenge for a lot of people. So this is one of my goals for my life, and no regrets in my 90s. So I want to share the first one with you. Now I want to show you what I call my healthy habits. So it's kind of like a habit tracker, and I do have a habit tracker I show in my second video. I decided to create a habit tracker for people. If you wanted to purchase it, it's $5. All you have to do is email me and I'll send you any size that you want, A5, B5, low opacity or high opacity. It's a sugar skull, and you can use that to create art to help you to also keep up with your habits. But I created this healthy habits because I always feel like there are so many things that we are recommended that we do for our health that it's impossible to do all of them every single day. So if you break it all up in little tiny chunks, which is what I tell my students all the time, when life becomes too overwhelming, take it in small chunks, break it down, and then it's never so overwhelming. So this is my healthy habits chart that I have in one of my BUJO. So I only have 3 bullet journals. I have one that's kind of like a permanent brain dump, which I fill up 1 full book every 3 months with ideas and notes. And it's my book journal, my book notes, drawing practices, all in 1 book. Then I have my bullet journal, which is a calendar, my to-do lists. And then I also have what I call a running BUJO, which is whatever I need for longer than 1 year or longer than the other 2 journals. So this health habits is actually what I call my running BUJO, which is for anything over longer than 6 months or even longer than a year. So this is what I kind of laid out. I don't have a regular 8 to 5 type job. I teach my phys ed classes and every semester is different, which is always a challenge for my brain. It's always, which was really fun for my mother. My mother loved every morning when she would say to me, "What's on the agenda for today?" And I would tell her, "I'm going to this college to teach this class and this other college to teach another class," and she loved being out and about. If you are caregiving or if you have a relative in a home, getting them out and about is the best thing for them. I just finished speaking to a friend whose father really wants to be out and about. Nobody wants to stay home and just watch a TV or watch a wall, especially if they have any kind of brain function. And especially when they want to be challenged, it's good for their brain. It's good for your brain too. I took my mother on train trips, taking the train, the Coast Starlight from San Jose to LA, leaves every day. That was the most fun. I didn't have to drive, and she was out and about. That was the best trip. And I was always trying to find somebody just to take my mother out and about. I sometimes would pay some students to do that, just to take my mother when they were on their errands. They were trustworthy. I knew them. They were my students. I'd known them for a year, so I trusted them. So back to my health habits. So you can see here, as I've been talking, I try to make sure I moisturize all day, so I have vibrant skin. Floss is important. Oil pulling, I began to believe in the benefits of oil pulling, but you can't do that every day. So I try to pick 2 days a week. I try to do it on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Stretch, like I mentioned in my last a little bit ago, the downward dog and the quad stretch. So I always do that every day. And then what I've also done, you know about the benefits of the foam roller, but you can't foam roll your whole body every day. But you can pick one body part to do every day. So that's how I broke it up. I foam my thighs on Mondays, my feet, butt, my glutes, right? I foam my calves, my upper back. I honestly use my foam roller on my upper back almost every day, probably right after I meditate. Try to dry brush my body, a facial mask, for those vanity reasons. Take my vitamins every day, and try to organize a lunch with some friends twice a month to keep up on my friendship wheel, which I'm going to show you. Taking my vitamins, and I'm also going to show you my push-up challenge. So you can't do strength training every day. It's supposed to be every other day. And if you do one set of push-ups to failure within 90 seconds, that's strength training. You don't have to do 3 to 5 sets. They have studies showing. It was quite a while ago when I read these studies. I haven't read anything recently, but I've noticed for the past year that my strength has improved just from doing one set of push-ups to failure every other day. And I showed that my push-up challenge on a previous video, and I also will show my one that I started for 2022. So you can see here what's a good idea for just your health habits. What is your priorities, and break it all up in little chunks and see what you can do. And I really enjoy going to the beach. I live in Northern California, right near San Jose, so I go down to Santa Cruz maybe once or twice a month and walk the Natural Bridges State Beach, which is right on the ocean. It is a fantastic walk, a fantastic view. It takes me about an hour to walk one direction and then sit on the beach and draw, or sometimes sit watching people. So this is one of my recommendations, and I try to do a veggie smoothie fast once a month. Now I wanted to go over how to increase your VO2 max. Your VO2 max is how strong your heart is during exercise. And there are some easy tests that you can do for yourself with no equipment. There's the Rockport walking test. And there's a chart here I've given you. This is a copy of my VO2 max chart. I did this for 2021, the beginning. About once or twice a month, I would measure. So in my neighborhood, I figured out a mile by driving with my car without anything to ever stop me. You have to make sure you can walk for the mile. It has to be completely flat, and nothing can get in your way to stop. So you start the mile, you time yourself. When you get to the end of the mile, you take your heart rate. And of course, when you take your heart rate, the general rule is not to push. I take it on my neck, but the general rule is not to push too hard, because some people in life have pushed too hard and hurt themselves. So take your heart rate. And of course, I don't have a whole Apple Watch and all that. I know when I'm exercising, and I know how to take my heart rate. So you could, of course, everybody has all the fitness watches nowadays that do everything for you, right? So you could use the fitness watch to tell you what your heart rate is exactly when you finished your mile, and put it into this formula to tell you what your VO2 max is. So I always came out about good or excellent, and that's okay. I'm not going to run a marathon as long as you stay in the good and excellent. There's a lot to be said for moderate fitness. Then it doesn't take up so much time in your daily life and all your other goals. But I wanted to share my increasing my VO2 max. This is for last year. I haven't created one for this year. I kind of know now. I know the mile. I know the time, I know my heart rate, so I will do it every once in a while and see how I'm doing. But I go out walking probably 7 days in a row, and then usually the 8th day I just take a break. Remember the FIT principle, which I mentioned in my previous video, is frequency is the F, and it's supposed to be 3 to 5 days per week for 20 to 60 minutes. So you don't have to work and walk 7 days a week. But usually for me, I feel like after 7 days, the 8th day, I just take a break and don't do any cardio. But I always do my push-ups every other day, even if I don't do any cardio for that day. And then during the summertime, I will take turns between swimming laps and walking. And then when everything gets going again, I start teaching all the aerobic classes and health clubs and colleges. I will probably put in all those cardio classes in there as well. So I wanted to share how you can improve your VO2 max and see how you're doing. This is an easy indicator that you can do for the rest of your life to see how you are. You can take your resting heart rate first thing in the morning. When you're still sitting in bed, laying in bed, as long as nothing scared you, lay there and see what your resting heart rate, and that's another good indicator of your fitness level that you can easily do on your own to see how you are. Remember that cross-country skiers have the lowest resting heart rate. They get down in the 20s because their stroke volume is the amount of blood that the heart pumps out every single pump, and their heart pumps out a huge amount of blood every single time it pumps, so that's why the number is less. So you're looking for a lower resting heart rate as well, as long as you don't have any other physical difficulties. The next thing I want to go over is my push-up challenge for 2022. I showed my 2021 in a previous video, but here is my new one that I'm starting for 2022. It's a little goofy, it's fun, but it gets the job done, right? So it's just showing so the HFW is high feet wide. So I'm always trying to make the push-up hard enough so that I reach failure before 90 seconds. So you can see sometimes the high feet wide, so I put my feet on my chair so they're high up in the air, and my arms are wide. The biggest problem is, and I hope you can see in my picture here, I drew a cute goofy picture of myself here, but see how the hands are below the shoulders? This is the biggest mistake that people make whenever they're trying to do push-ups. The hands have to be below your body, maybe, and mine were extra wide for the high feet wide. And if you go to diamond, so the HFD is high feet diamond, and then normal push-ups, normal wide, normal diamond. So that means my feet are on the ground, they're not high, and then doing slow push-ups. The biggest mistake that people make is they always have the hands too high. So if you think about, even if somebody is bench pressing, when somebody is bench pressing, the bar is right over their nipples. So your hands should pretty much be right under your nipple line. So if you dropped a string from your nipples, no matter what you got going on for your chest, that string should hit just inside of your thumbs, and that will make you stronger too. And just like the picture here that I have of my body, your body should be straight and extended, and normally you should be looking at the ground, maybe a foot in front of your hands. So you don't want to round everything, and that all takes practice and time. And I did a lot of push-ups before COVID, and of course I've done a lot of chaturangas in all my yoga classes. But I wanted to keep up my strength. I'm not a kind of person that will do a video at home. I like to either be in a class or be teaching a class. I've always either taught or taken a class to learn from other people and also to support people. Now that I'm looking at this, I realize I spelled February wrong. I am a good speller. But here I wanted to show this is an easy chart you can make for yourself and try to do push-ups every other day. Last year I only did 1 set to failure, but this year I decided I wanted to do 2 sets. So as you can see, I can do high feet diamond push-ups. So diamond, my hands are touching. I can do 27 of those. And actually today, the day that I'm doing this video, right after I finish this video, I'm going to do 1 set of high feet diamond push-ups before I go for my walk. And then when I come back, I'll do the other set of high feet wide. So I wanted to share, you can stay strong. Upper body strength will make everything in life so much easier. I've always, when I fly and some women or some people can't get their bags in the overhead bin, that's an example of functional training. You need to keep up your strength so you can do stuff like that. You can put your bags in the overhead bin by yourself. You can, if you go skiing and you fall down, you can push yourself up from skiing. You need upper body strength, which will also help with your core strength. And like I said, I'm always going to give an example of what I call a posture link. So at the end of this video, I'm going to give another posture link to help you work on your core by changing your body behavior all day long. Next, I want to go over my friendship wheel that was part of my no regrets. So here's a picture of my friendship wheel. It's a simple picture that I drew a wheel. This is actually washi tape from Torin Marie. If you look her up on YouTube, she has a fabulous channel on bullet journaling and art, and she lives in Australia. And I love her art and these washi tape that she has, about 5 of them, I think, on the washi tape store. I bought all of them. They're really pretty, but I used her washi tape to border my friendship wheel. So here's a simple friendship wheel. This is actually in my running BUJO. I mentioned how I just have 3. This will be for longer than 1 year. So today is in February, so I've done 2 for 1 for each month. I'll try to do maybe 1 more for this month. And these are friends that you don't see on a regular basis. I have some friends that I talk to probably at least once a week, right? We all have friends like that. But I'm talking about the friends that you used to work with maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago that you haven't seen for a while, and catch up. You know, and social interactions, always good social interactions with old friends always improve your whole body and your mind feels so much good when you go out with some good friends, right? And that's a major part of caregiving, you know, keeping people involved in situations and social interactions. So that's one reason why my mother, it would have been cruel and inhumane to have left her in a lockdown unit in this nursing home. So keeping her out and about, going around with me, she loved it. She absolutely loved it. So trying to find some way to tag team with your family to keep your parents and all of your relatives busy so that they don't feel abandoned. My mother had a fear of abandonment, so I didn't have to worry about her taking off on me. She stayed near me, and I used to always have people constantly ask me, is she okay? And I said, yes, she's okay. If I tell people she's okay, and if you ever see somebody and if their relative tells you that they're okay, believe them. You don't have to keep questioning them, saying, are you sure? My mother had an invisible tether near me, and she did not take off. She did not wander. So this is my friendship wheel, simple friendship wheel. I wanted to share keeping your social interactions. The last spread I wanted to go over on my no regrets is I wanted to be able to get to the point where I can draw without a reference. And part of the neuro tests that they give my mother, and one of them is drawing a cube. And I would challenge, or I would ask any of my viewers, if you personally, or if you have watched the neuro tests that they give the elderly for Alzheimer's and dementia, and if you can find the background for those, let me know. I would really like to know. But one of the typical tests is drawing a cube. Well, a cube is a basic beginner's drawing lesson, which even Betty Edwards in her book says that people can't draw a cube unless they're taught. But that's part of the neuro test, and that's one of the inconsistencies, one of the many inconsistencies that I found in the healthcare industry for servicing the elderly, that I just don't see the right hand talking to the left hand when it comes to everything. Because also all the memory books say that we don't have a memory. Our brain is used for solving puzzles. We don't have any memory. So I'm sure most of you in conversations with people, whenever you find something you want to remember, you immediately write it down, or you immediately text yourself, or you text your somebody else, or write it down, because we don't have a lot of short-term memory. And of course, if you're at a restaurant and you order food, how many times does your server not write down your order, no matter what age they are? People need to write it down. And part of the neuro test is this 3-word recall test. And there are 2 very small studies on that. But I question that, because they will give 3 words, and they're not words that really mean anything to the individual, like apple, banana, chair, have a conversation, and they have to remember what those 3 words are. After I learned that, I gave that test to one of my college freshman PE classes, and about half of them got all 3 words, and all of them got 2 words, and which is exactly what my mother did. My mother always got 2 out of the 3 words. So I wanted to ask my viewers and to point out some of those inconsistencies. So here is my spread on the drawing time. I just decided, starting November of 2021, to put how many minutes that I actually draw, which could be drawing from my book or just drawing from my bullet journal. And of course, on this page, I am eventually going to draw some doodles on the bottom, maybe each month what my themes are. What I've been doing I wasn't doing themes in my bullet journal for a while because I didn't have the space or the time, but I decided to do it. This month my theme is last month my theme was Archie and Jughead. This month my theme is Bugs Bunny and some of those older cartoons. And maybe I'll show that. My art isn't as good as Tor and Marie's, but we're working there, right? That's one of the problems with art. People always look at the great artists and think that they can never get there, but those great artists took years and years and decades to get where they are. So here's a simple little drawing time to challenge you to see how many minutes you want to get in there. There are some days I do no minutes. So good little simple chart, right? I want to thank you for sticking around for my whole video. I hope you didn't fast forward, zip through. We know we can do that on YouTube, right? But the last thing I wanted to share is a posture link. I'm always going to give a posture link to help you improve on your core strength, which also affects your brain. My mother always had good posture. My mother always reminded me of Lucille Ball. She had really good posture, standing back. So keeping your head back. So my first 2 posture links, I want to remind you, number 1 was to stand on both feet all the time. People always lean on one side because they're trying to make it easier on their core. But I want you to stand it's called standing up nice and tall, like mountain pose. When people lean, it's called contrapposto in all the old art history. So no contrapposto was number 1. Number 2, I wanted to suggest that you practice your balance throughout your day. So you're putting on your sock or your shoes, try to pick your foot up, and maybe even when you close your dishwasher door, slowly close it and challenge your balance. Sometimes people look at that as being lazy, but I'm telling you that if you practice balancing and simple things, like when I said, when you're putting your pants on or taking your pants off, try to stand up. Of course, safety first. Your third posture link is going to be huge, and this is going to affect a lot. It's going to take me a couple of minutes, so I'm not going to bring in all these pictures. I'm going to have you make sure you use your brain. Like I said, this video is not doing all the fancy stuff. You're going to have to think. Your next posture link is every single time you flex your hips, you're going to make sure you extend your spine. So flexion means you're closing the angle of a joint. So I'm flexing my elbow now. And when I open it up, that's called extension, right? Flexion, closing the angle of a joint. Extension is opening up the angle of a joint. So every time in life that you flex your hips, so maybe brushing your teeth, or picking something up off the ground. There is an innumerable number of things we do all day when we bend over. So when you're flexing your hips, I want you to make sure you extend your spine. So you're not going to flex your spine when you flex your hips. And if you extend your spine when you're flexing your hips, that is just like going to the gym and getting into a back extension device. You can do it all day long, every single thing you do. So think about it. If your hips are flexed, your spine can be extended. Don't round your back. Always retract your shoulder blades Squeeze these together all the time and only flex your hips. So that's true for whenever you're doing yoga in the sun salutation. Whenever you get to the point where you can't reach the ground without rounding your back, that's when you can start to bend your knees to move into the next part of your sun salutation. And some videos are good at that and some of them aren't. But remember that, and this would be huge. If you always extend your spine when you're flexing your hips, that's back strengthening, it's core strengthening, and keeping your head between your shoulders so you're not doing the dowager's hump. You can make a conscious effort to work on your posture and your core strength all day long, so you never do things like crossing your legs. I want to thank you for sticking out this entire video. I want to thank you for taking some time, and I hope that you subscribe. Remember, subscribing is free, and I really appreciate it. I need 993 more subscribers, but I really appreciate it. Take care, and if you have any questions or comments, I would highly appreciate them. Thanks.